Why am I on a plane? Well, I thought before we finish off this season of QTFTBSDV, we would go back to the spookiest locations where we first encountered some of these villains. Starting off with Coolsville. Home of the Mystery Inc. gang. Coolsville is where we encountered the Creeper in a barn right outside of town. If you recall, the gang came across a broke down car with a guard who was unfortunately robbed. Of course, he was robbed by the Creeper, one of the classic Scooby-Doo villains. Probably one of the villains that comes to mind when you mention Scooby-Doo. Now, the Creeper definitely, as his name suggests, is pretty creepy. There's just something about him. He just walks around repeating his name over and over again. He's not a very flashy villain. He's got a suit which is kind of drippy, but like, other than that, he's green, his eyes are yellow, and he's got this weird zombie thing going on. Of course, it turned out that he was the bank manager, which, who could have seen that coming, but I digress. The Creeper, all-time classic, definitely one of my favorite villains. Anyways, we gotta hit the road because we gotta go all the way down to Georgia. Okay, so the car broke down. So until another one comes along, we're just gonna talk about the next one. Let's talk about the Snow Beast. The Snow Beast was definitely one of the more interesting villains. Admittedly, I didn't think it was gonna make it to the next round, but it did. It's a bold move to have your villain's location be in the fucking Yukon or wherever this is. Because honestly, it's kind of a boring background most of the time. But to be fair, it does make sense for the size and scale of the Snow Beast. Which, speaking of the Snow Beast itself, the design for it is one of the most creative, honestly. I like it a lot. It's got a nice mix between Yeti and prehistoric, which is super interesting. And the design really makes up for it. But moving on to the plans, the Snow Beast was pretty smart. Secretly fracking oil is quite devious, and, you know, the whole destroying a town thing, but, you know. Hold on. Yeah, my car broke down. Now we're going to Stillwell Manor. Oh, you too. Oh, okay. Thanks. And here we are, Stillwell Manor. This is again a very iconic villain, the Headless Spectre. Probably one of my favorites. Definitely top 10. Its design and laugh are almost perfect. Even though the design is literally just a guy walking around with no head, it's weird, alright? It's spooky, and it fits the aesthetic of the manor. The manor itself is actually a great location, being rigged with many traps and secret entrances. It's probably the perfect lair for a villain. Plans-wise, the plan is pretty funny, honestly. Like, the entire episode, the gang is chasing the Headless Spectre, the Headless Spectre's chasing, but none of them are really after each other, because the true villain is up in the attic looking for the treasure. Now, while I wait for a taxi, let's talk about our next villain. There's something eerie about being in the woods, right? Especially with a zombie werewolf. By the way, another great example of one of the most creative designs. They really nailed the design with this guy. Green fur, red eyes, that's all you need. And it just kind of an interesting concept too. It's a zombie werewolf. Like, it's just a good idea. It's also a very strange case of the villain changing appearances throughout the episode. As you recall, Shaggy and Scooby shave his head at one point. Now, this guy does lose to a waterfall, which is kind of embarrassing, and I'm not 100% sure that dressing up as a werewolf was the best way to pull off your plan, but maybe I'm wrong. Oh, yep, over here. Thanks. Alright, moving on to the cat creature. This was one of the weirder villains we've covered. This guy managed to pull off one of the biggest heists in the show, cleaned out an entire jewelry store, And on top of that was framing someone else for his crimes. Another standout part of this episode was the fake out we got with Shaggy turning into the cat creature. This genius maneuver caused us to believe that the curse was real, and Shaggy got turned into a giant monster. Which, as a kid, really fucked me up. But, I digress. The plan was good, the design was alright, and the execution was nearly flawless. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a flight to catch all the way to LA, where we will crown the winner of this season of QTFTBSDV. But before that, we still got one more villain to talk about. That's right, the terrifying Jaguaro. Half saber-toothed tiger and half ape, this enormous bastard will gladly tear your lungs out. Along with being at the very top of the food chain, this guy also has a following. An entire tribe in the Brazilian jungle love this guy, to the point where they're gonna summon him. They're gonna risk their lives just to bring him out. Yeah, the Jaguaro was definitely scary, to say the least. I think what does it for me is the scream, or the cry. Very, very scary. I did not enjoy that. But, anyways, let's move on. And here we are. The stage set for this season finale of QTFTBSDV. Let's remind everybody of the rules. Bring up the scoreboard, please. All 6 villains are going to be judged in 8 different categories. The original 4, design, laugh, powers, and plan, and execution, crime, goal, and trap. Now, the thing about the trap category is that you'll lose points for that, depending on how embarrassing or stupid the trap was. You can thank Fred for that. Each category is out of 5. Yeah, let's begin. Starting us off with the creeper, we're just going to go straight across. Design of 4. Like I said earlier, simple but effective. And, as the name suggests, pretty creepy. Laugh, creeper gets a 2 because didn't have a laugh, more of a growl, and just kept repeating his name over and over again. Powers, he gets a 4 because, as it was established in the episode, he could walk straight through walls and just take money, which is pretty good. He was also able to beat up that one guard, so I'm gonna include super strength there. Plan, he gets a 2 because, I mean, the plan worked, but he did fumble with the guard. It doesn't really work for me, you know. The Headless Spectre, he gets a design of 3 because, just like the creeper, simple yet effective, maybe a little too simple, even though he was missing a head, I know, but not a whole lot going on. Laugh, he gets a 5 because he had a fantastic laugh. It was great. Yeah, nothing else to say about that. Powers, he gets a 2 because the thing for me was that we seen other ghosts show up, and we seen the candles float, which was cool, but then the show kind of took us out of it a bit because we seen the Headless Spectre moving between the walls, which was cool to see, but we knew that he wasn't really teleporting around, you know? We knew he wasn't going through walls because we seen how he was doing it, so that's a 2 for me. Plan, he gets a 2 because I don't think what he was doing was illegal. He was just going around his own property looking for treasure that belonged to him. If he really wanted to look for it, he could have put a no trespassing sign up. Zombie Werewolf gets a 4 for design because, again, like I said, simple yet effective, and more so on the effective side. It's a zombie werewolf. The fur was green, eyes were red. Suit was a little weird, out of place, but what are you gonna do? Laugh gets a 4 because, as we know, laugh doesn't just mean laugh, it's also battle cries, screams, stuff like that. Anything audibly terrifying. So, Laugh, he gets a 4 because he had a pretty good howl throughout most of the episode. Powers, he gets a 3, because being able to rise from the dead and turn into a werewolf, that's pretty good. He did teleport that one time, but I'm not really counting that. That was more of a... just kind of snuck up on the gang. And plan, he gets a 2, because like I said earlier, his plan was kind of stupid. Again, he could just put up some no trespassing signs. I know it wasn't his property, but I bet less people would show up if there was no trespassing signs. The Jaguaro for design gets a 4 because it's pretty creepy. It's a giant gorilla saber-toothed tiger hybrid. I mean, that's terrifying if you ask me. Laugh, 100% to 5, because as we know from the episode, it was a loud, terrifying scream. And honestly, rewatching the episode, I forgot about it, and it got me a couple times, so it gets a 5. Powers, he gets a 2, because not the biggest fan of his powers, just kind of super strength, which he's a gorilla, so like, of course he does. But I don't know, it just doesn't really speak volume to me, you know? Plan, he gets a 3, because it's a pretty funny plan. You know, dressing up as a monster and recording people to make a documentary / horror movie about this local legend. That's pretty funny. He kind of did screw himself by, you know, kidnapping pilots and dressing up as a Jaguar after he gave the movie away, so I don't really know why he did that, but that is why he's getting a 3. The cat creature for design is getting a 2 because, like I said last episode actually, I'm not a big fan of the design. It's very goofy. I didn't say that directly last episode, but like, it's kind of a goofy design. It's a big cat with a cape. It's like I said, if you turn into a werewolf, but you have a hat, it's a lot less menacing. So that's a 2. Laugh, he gets a 4 because it was pretty solid, honestly. Like I liked it, I enjoyed it, it scared me. So yeah, it's a 4. It's kind of funny, you don't really have to say a lot when they're just good at what they do. Powers, he gets a 2 because, like I said, not a fan of the werewolf rule. I know it's a little different in this case, but I'm not a big fan of it. The super strength is pretty much what this 2 is, you know, like the super strength pretty much makes up for everything else. So, gets a 2. And plan, he gets a 3 because the plan was pretty good. Cleaned out an entire jewelry store. And actually almost pulled off framing someone. He only gets a 3 though because he didn't, and there was a couple things that were very easily able to be disproven, hence the reason why he gets a 3. Moving on to the Snow Beast design, he gets a 4 because, like I said earlier in this episode, it's kind of a prehistoric Yeti hybrid, which is very creative, definitely one of the more creative villains in Scooby-Doo, and just giant scary beast. You love it. Laugh, I mean, didn't have much of a growl or anything going on. He did sometimes, but kind of sounded a little weird, so we're sticking with a 2 for this one. Powers, he gets a 2 because not really powers, you know, like super strength, yeah, but he's a fucking dinosaur. Does that really count? You know, like it's, I don't know. That maybe that's just me, but I don't know. Plan, you get a 3 because the plan was pretty solid. If you recall, the plan was to secretly get rid of everybody in the town and proceed with oil fracking because there was a lot of oil underneath it. The plan was working, but he was way too suspicious, and getting rid of his partner was kind of a misstep on his part. He should just abandon the project and then came back later, you know? So for that, he gets a 3. Moving on to the next 4 categories, we have Execution, and the Creeper is coming in with a 4. 4 because the execution is a little different from the plan. How well did you do your plan? And you did it pretty well. Obviously, the bank manager can go in and out of the bank, and that's exactly what he did. And then later on in the episode, he did chase around a bunch of teenagers, and that part of the execution did not go as well, but the rest of it was pretty good, so that's a 4. Crime, he gets a 4 because you robbed a bank and beat up a guy and chased some teenagers. That is a pretty tough crime, so you get a 4 for that. Ghoul, again, you get a 4 because you pulled off your plan. You did it. That was it. You did your plan. So you get a 4. Now the trap, you get a 3 because you lost to Scooby and a hay bale maker. So that's pretty rough, man. The Headless Spectre coming in with a 4 for execution because, again, just like the Creeper, the execution was very well done. Wasn't perfect, but it was very well done. As far as we know, you've been chasing people off your property for years, except for your neighbor, apparently. And, yeah. Moving on to crime, you get a 1 because you didn't commit a crime. You scared people away from your own property. So, yeah, you get a 1 for that. Goal, you get a 2 because your goal was to find the treasure and scare people away. You did both of those, kind of. You scared people away, for the most part. And Scooby found your treasure. So, like, we'll give you a 50-50 on that, you know? That's 2 points. And the trap, you get a 3 because the trap did go wrong, and you ended up chasing Shaggy and Scooby on a balloon, and then fell into a chicken coop, which is rough. I gotta be honest, that is fucking rough. So you get a 3. The zombie werewolf gets a 4 for execution because, just like the Headless Spectre, you were chasing people away from your work site, and you were doing your plan pretty well, actually. So that's a 4. Crime, again, 4. Is it animal trafficking? Yeah, it's a tough one to pull off, and a very elaborate plan you guys had. So I gotta give you a 4 for that one. Goal, you get a 5 because, yeah, again, you did your plan. You did it. You put animals in barrels, sent them downriver, and then you got them. Simple. And trap, you get a 2 because although it wasn't Fred's trap that done you in, it was it's like you didn't think ahead. Like, you knew you were chasing these guys downstream, and you're supposed to know this forest, like, very well, apparently. And you didn't know that there was a waterfall there. Had you wanted to continue your plan, you would have just let Shaggy and Scooby go downstream. But instead you chased them and went over the waterfall like a fool, so you get a 2. The Jaguaro gets a 4 for execution. That's because the execution was fantastic. Got the Jaguaro suit, which must have cost thousands. Went to the jungle and got praised, and then you kidnapped a pilot. 2 pilots, actually. All while recording yourself doing it. So that's a 4. Crime, you get a 5 because you kidnapped people and you destroyed an airplane, which is pretty rough. I don't know if dressing up as a monster and chasing people around is a crime, maybe disturbing the peace, but I wouldn't know, and that's pretty funny either way, so you get a 5. Goal, you get a 3 because, again, like I said earlier, you finished your movie. As we see in the episode, you finished it. And then you gave it to the pilot to bring back to America, or wherever they were going, so that they could, like, publish the movie. But you still dressed up as the Jaguaro. I'm honestly starting to think that you just kind of get off to scaring people as a giant monster, which is fair. I would like you to admit it, though. That's the thing. So that's why you get a 3. And trap, you get a 2, because it was an improvised trap, so in that sense, it's kind of sad that you fell for that one, but it was a giant waterfall that did you in. Similar to the zombie werewolf, actually, just on the opposite side. The cat creature for execution gets a 4 because, like literally every other villain in this category so far, your execution was fine. You pulled off the heist, you were successfully framing someone, and then you got us with the bamboozle with Shaggy turned into the cat creature. Execution was great. Crime, you get a 4 because you were framing someone, like we just said. You hid the stolen jewels in the hotel room and her purse. Ghoul, you get a 3 because you did, in fact, pull off a jewelry heist as a cat creature of all things. There were a few slip-ups like the secret entrance from the tomb that got you, so that's 3. Ghoul, you did actually successfully pull off a jewelry heist, and you were on the road to pulling off framing someone, but you didn't. You got halfway there, and we're going to give you a 3 for that. Trap is a 2, because it wasn't exactly Fred's trap. It was his plan, originally, but they just turned the fast switch on the elevator, and you kind of just were in the elevator, so... Alright, and the snow creature. Execution gets a 4 because you crushed the town, you set up the oil fracking sites inside the totem poles, and you got rid of your partner and the chief of the village. That is good execution right there. Crime, you get a 5 because, like I just said, town crushed, oil, and people kidnapped. Your crime was ruthless. Goal, you get a 3 because, again, you got most of it done, but you couldn't hold people off for long. And you having your research facilities still there was the reason why you got caught. So if you didn't have that, if you had a secret one, and if you were less aggressive to the gang, I bet you could have pulled it off. But we're going to give you a 3 because you did manage to pull off most of the plan. And Trap, you get a 3 because you slipped on ice. How did you not think to have some sort of mechanism built into your giant mech suit to not slip on ice? I mean, that technology's been around for fucking years. So you get a 3 for that. So, let's add up the scores and figure out who the winner of Season 2, 2.5 actually, of QTFTBSDV is. Coming in at 21 is the Creeper. 16, the Headless Spectre. 24, the Zombie Werewolf. 20, the Snow Beast. 24, the Jaguaro. And 20 for the Cat Creature, making it a tie for first place. Now we can't have that, because this is the winner of the season. So, I'm not going to choose the winner. You guys are. I'm going to give it 2 weeks from the time that this video is uploaded. You guys write down who you want to win, and that'll be the winner. I don't care if there's 1 comment. I don't care if there's 230. I will figure out who the winner is through you guys.